Today, we become legends.
We all have those gods in Smite that just make us roll our eyes whenever we see them in the match lobby. Some are personal, but some are fairly universally agreed upon to be ultimate cringe. Well, this list is going to detail both my personal cringe picks, as well as some of the ones that probably most of you will agree are the worst. Hey, just a quick mention that Nexus are holding an event where the creator gets 100% of the sales revenue instead of just a portion of it at the moment. So if you're looking to cop some gems, I get 100% of the purchase price, so you're essentially helping support the channel, and you still get your gems. So if you're interested in that, you can head over to nexus.gg/intersect, the link will be in the description, and thank you for supporting the channel. But back to the video. So without further ado, and in order, let's jump in. So first up, the least cringe of this list of cringe is Hell. Healers in general are always going to be a little frustrating to play against. It's half the reason we had that whole 10.3 healing overhaul patch. And of all the healers, Hell is the worst in terms of being able to just disengage, full heal her team, and then keep going. And that's my main issue with Hell. Sure, she does a lot of damage given how much utility she has, but it's the fact that if you can't just insta-give the Hell in teamfights, you often just lose the game purely on the fact that they can just disengage, heal back up, and then either counter-engage on your team or start a Fire Giant while your whole team has to back, because you've suffered so much poke that can't just be healed off because you don't have a Hell. But this is only number 10 on the list, so believe me, she's not the worst in terms of cringe. Next up at number 9 is Arachne, which is a total switch from why Hell is cringe, but I would argue Arachne is slightly more so. The core aspect of why Arachne is so cringe to play against is the fact that she's literally the embodiment of feast or famine and snowballing. There's a reason we also never see her in the current meta, and that's because Snowball is historically weak right now, and games are going the literal longest they've ever gone in Smite history. And if Arachne doesn't get a lead so large that it wins the game for her in the first 20 minutes, she kind of just does nothing in late game teamfights. The fact that she has 2 steroids also adds to the cringe due to her being a left-click W machine, which is, for the most part, not very fun to play against, especially if you can't rely on your random gold player teammates to be able to shut her down in fights and not feed her, and she gets a 4-level lead and runs over your whole team. I know that sounds audacious given the current meta where she is terrible, but honestly that can even add to the problem, as people have forgotten how to play against a good Arachne, and she snowballs more than she would if she was a meta threat that people play against daily. And that makes it even more frustrating to lose to her, because she's not even objectively good in this meta. But yeah, overall, very cringe god. Next. So you know how I just mentioned that left-click W playstyles generally add to cringe levels? Well, welcome to Bakasura, ladies and gentlemen. Baka is kind of like Arachne but actually good, and he has definitely been meta a couple of times this year alone. Of course, he's a left-click W god, but this guy also has AoE autos, true damage, and insane farming that can allow him to build a lead much easier than Arachne simply by farming efficiently in the early game and picking his fights sensibly. And once a Baka gets 3 to 4 items online, he starts doing his thing and can basically win games through sheer force of will and a strong index finger. It's that ultimate that really elevates Baka above Arachne in this list, as at least Arachne is only going to be able to melt one person at once, whereas Baka gets an entire 6 seconds to be able to AoE shred multiple people, and cripple and slow them so they can't get away as easily as you sometimes can from Arachne by jumping. After writing this out, Baka might actually be even a little underrated on this list at number 8 to be honest, but to be honest, it was hard to order a lot of these placements as all 10 on the list are omega cringe in one way or another, but let's move on to number 7. So to give my index finger a break for a little bit, let's talk about Jormungandr, who I feel goes way too under the radar in terms of cringe levels. Maybe it's because I'm a solo main who plays a lot of Herc, Tyr, and Arthur, but playing into Jorm in the solo lane laning phase, as pretty much anyone, feels terrible. Playing into him as a god where displacement is a core part of their identity is like someone slowly clamping your nutsack while forcing you to listen to Jake Paul's It's Everyday Bro on repeat. But that passive isn't the only thing about Jorm. He has a pseudo stealth, way too much damage for a guardian, and an ultimate that can completely disable any solo kill or gank opportunities you foolishly thought you might have, or tower dive you for free after he's poked you down to 20% health with his ridiculous damage. He also has insane totem and bastion pressure with his 1, which just compounds with all these other factors to create a god that, if you have more than 3 brain cells, can't possibly lose lane in solo. A lot of you non-solo mains watching might think Jorm is a little overrated here, but I'm sure anyone who mains the role will agree that Jorm is one of, if not the most cringe matchups that exist over in solo land. But coming in at number 6 is an entry that might surprise you, not because you don't think it should be on the list, but because there's a good chance you think he should be higher up, and that is our good friend Loki. The main reason he's down here and not in the top 3 is because of his rework. I feel it did make him significantly less cringe as it reduced his instant burst potential, took away some of his split pushing from the decoy, and made his stealth less annoying. But with all that said, Loki is still Loki and definitely deserves an entry on this list somewhere. Stealth is inherently super annoying to deal with, especially if you don't have good communication communication with your rando teammates in ranked games, he can still pretty much one-shot a backliner if their relics are down, and he can still split push somewhat effectively, though definitely not as well as he could pre-rework. And to be honest, a good portion of Loki's cringe factor post-rework is the players themselves. They're split pushers, they're rats, some, I'm sure, are good people, but they're not singing their best. Okay, jokes aside, we've all seen those Loki players that have 25 stars, are toxic as all hell, and play Smite as if it's a single-player game, completely ignoring their team and the objectives, in order to chase kills and split push towers all game. Of all Smite's gods, I think Loki has the most toxic player base as a whole, which adds to his cringe levels. But enough on the trickster, you all knew he was going to be here some way, so there you go. Moving on to the top 5. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more Smite content just like this in the future, it really helps out the channel. So from here on out, all the picks are probably ones you expect to be on the list, and at number 5 is one that you might even want to put at number 1, that being our sleepy friend Kumba. It feels like this guy literally exists just to be annoying. His CC is some of, if not the most obnoxious to deal with in the entire game. If absolutely maximized, this guy can chain CC you for 9.2 seconds if you include the slow after waking up from the mez. Even if you don't include that, it's still 7.2 seconds of hard CC that this guy can just throw out on relatively low cooldowns. Sure, he does sort of self-DR, which helps a little when facing him, but it still feels like once this guy gets on you with his CC, you just die if you don't have beads, since not only can his team pump damage into you, his ult also hits for over 700 base damage, which is pretty insane for a Guardian ult that also comes with strong CC. Sure, Kumba hasn't been meta for a long time, but honestly, I'm very happy with that, because this guy is one of, if not the most cringe and frustrating Guardians to go up against in the entire game. But moving on to the number 4 spot, we have a fairly new face to Smite, and that's Icarus. This god has been an absolute plague to the Smite community ever since his release, and is probably the most cringe hunter design I've ever seen. He's insanely safe, has great effective range, some of the highest damage of any god in the game, super annoying grass patches that make you waste wards and lose all pressure in that area, and of course the ultimate, which is the pièce de résistance in terms of this cringe design. Instant, complete untargetability that lasts 3 seconds, meanwhile he returns half of your health bar or more in damage and shreds your procs by 24% for 7 seconds. This ult is literally just Freya's ult combined with AMC's ult and put on anabolic steroids, and is one of the most cringe abilities to fight against of all time. And for some reason it's on a 90-second cooldown when other less powerful ults are on 100 or 110. We all know Marty is cringe though, and I did make a rant on him very recently, so in the interest of not repeating myself too much, let's move on. So breaking into the top 3 most cringe gods in Smite, we're back to some good old left-click W cringe, and arguably the master of this kind of playstyle, Cali. So I've already talked a lot about this playstyle and why I think it's cringe, but Cali takes it to another level by having arguably the best single target shred in the entire game through her free penetration and fast attack chain for proccing kin size. Combine that with the complete immunity to death for 4.5 seconds and a 60% health heal when she inevitably kills her target, and you have a god that is essentially a ticking time bomb that you have to put so far behind that she can't come back into it before 20 minutes, or she often just wins the game on her own. At the very least, Cali is almost certainly killing whoever her target is unless you have insane team play and communication to shut her down in fights. But since she heals to near full after killing that target, she can often just run over your whole team with nothing more than basic attacks once she gets a few core items online. There's a reason Cali had a 66% win rate in all ranks until some nerfs recently, and is still the top win rate and top ban rate at the moment. Not only is she strong, but she's also one of the most cringe gods in the game, as she is one of very few that feel like they can genuinely win a game 1v5 if you let her get to late game. No one wants to play under that kind of pressure, and with conquest matches going the longest they've ever gone on average, Cali's issues are brought to the forefront even more so than usual. Let's just say, there's a reason this god is banned in 7 out of every 10 games, and it's not just that she's strong right now. While you might not agree with my exact placement, I think almost all of you watching right now would put Cali somewhere in your top 10 most cringe gods. But moving on, taking the penultimate spot on our list is our good friend Knox, who unlike some of the other spots on the list is here for purely one reason. That 2-1 combo and the lockdown it provides on such a short cooldown has been the bane of many people's existence for a long time. Against a decent Knox that can hit this combo more than 50% of the time, your beads basically don't exist. At max CDR, this combo is on less than a 10-second cooldown, while beads even at max rank is 140 seconds. Yeah, Knox essentially gets 14 chances to combo you before your beads come back up, and as we all know, if this combo hits you without beads just once, you're almost certainly dead, unless there are literally no other enemies there to follow up. Now, granted, she's never going to be able to actually attempt to combo you literally on cooldown, but even 5 attempts in the time your beads is down is probably going to result in her hitting 2 or 3 of those, and you're just dead at that point. It's an insane amount of lockdown for a mage to have, and while you can try and burst her down if she misses the combo, Knox support then enters the ring, and you literally can't can't punish her for just trying to combo you on cooldown, and she has an actual mage in mid to follow up on her combos with huge burst damage. It might seem a bit over the top to put Knox this high on the list when there's merely just one thing about her that's cringe, but that one thing is so unfathomably annoying that I think she still deserves the number 2 spot. So quickly before we get to the number 1 most cringe god of all time, which I'm sure you have probably guessed by now anyway, I have a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list but are definitely super cringe. Noir, mainly for her ultimate. Hades, mainly for his ridiculous lane pressure and the fact that he can't lose solo lane. Arachne, because he just vomits everything on you on cooldown and is super hard to fight into. And Charybdis for her near instant immunity on the 3 and janky as hell ultimate. But finally, without further ado, the most cringe god of all time in Smite is, drumroll please, it's Afro. Yeah, I'm sure all of you guessed this was coming when you didn't see her further down the list, but there's zero chance this literal ball of cringe was not making my list. The recent Afro support meta after 10.3 really reminded me why I hate this god with a burning passion. Being able to give beads and Aegis that doesn't stop you using abilities or being healed on a much lower cooldown than the relics themselves is ridiculously frustrating to play against. We've all seen the Afro-Susano E-couples where the Afro has no idea what planet she's even on but has enough brain cells to kiss the Susano and press 4 if he gets low. A hard carry like Susano, Cali or any ADC really with an Afro link can pretty much 2v5 a game if you play it right, and the change that allowed Afro to share procs with her soulmate only made this worse. It has thankfully been nerfed down to 10% instead of 20%, but that still means support Afro is giving her soulmate 30 of each procs for literally free, while also healing and probably applying more procs from Lotus Sickle and of course the aforementioned complete immunity to everything while still being able to cast and attack on a 54-second cooldown with max CDR. Hell, this ult can even still be used while knocked up and grabbed, which of course Aegis can't. At least when Afro was played as a mage you had a chance to burn her ultimate and then nuke her, but support Afro is even more cringe because she's unkillable. She's as tanky as a normal support while also having healing, 2 self peels, extra movement speed, and complete immunity for 2 seconds. But anyway, I won't go on too long as I already have 2 Afro rants on this channel and I don't want to make this video into Afro rant part 3. But yeah, most cringe god in Smite in my personal opinion, and if she doesn't make your top 10, I think you need to reevaluate life. But yeah, that's my list of the top 10 most cringe Smite gods of all time. Some are still meta to this day like Cali and Marty, while others are pretty terrible like Kumba and Arachne, but all of them are absolute cringe no matter how strong they are. Let me know if you agree or disagree down below. What's your personal top 3? I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. But yeah, catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.